Hey everyone, a very good Monday to everyone, a very good morning on a Monday. So I thought, I have some thoughts to share on one of the topics which is very important for investing, which I think a lot of people don't think too much about, and there are a lot of biases which come in. So this topic is of something called change, right? What is change and what role does it play in investing? So at a very high level, let's start by first talking about something which Ramdev Agarwal ji talks about, which is value migration, right? Think of it this way, that this is a stream of profits which users are willing to pay, right? Profits that users are willing to pay. Over time, initially a lot of profits are going to ICE, right? Very small amount of profits are going to the EV ecosystem, right? But over time, from let's say 2000 or 2020, whatever is your baseline, over time in let's say 2030, this will look very different. Profits, over time, a lot of it will go to the EV ecosystem. A very small amount of it will go to the ICE ecosystem, right? The amount of profits users are willing to give might be constant, but it's the value migration which actually destroys value in the ICE ecosystem and creates value in the EV ecosystem, right? So any company which is in the EV ecosystem or going long on it or doing a lot of work there is bound to benefit. This is a concept of value migration. Another way to think about it is that if there is absolutely no change in the world, there would be no value creation per se, right? Everything would just stay exactly how it is. Stock prices would be constant. There would be no up moves and down moves. The reason we have volatility both upside and downside is because of this value migration, at least at an industry level, right? So this was the first example of value. So essentially, this is where value migrates from one industry to another. We can also think of a single company and how value gets created and then discovered over time. The art of investors discovering value is what valuation is, right? And because everyone discovers it at their own time, at their own pace, and at a particular time of the journey of the company, that's why every investor has a different valuation, and that is why we have buyers and sellers for any company. So if we consider, let's say, something like Shivalik Biometals, and again no buy and sell recommendations, but 2018 is when they probably started developing shunts, right? But it took them till 2022 to start having enough revenue from it for it to be recognized, and because shunts were higher margins, so the margins also moved up. Now the thing is, if an investor had held it in this period of time, right, and especially at the COVID lows where the stock price went to like 20 rupees, they would think nothing is moving, it's such a thakela company. What has to be understood is that underneath the business is changing. It's just that we are unable to see that change in the price, because for things to come in the stock price, it has to come in the financials, and that takes time. So the way to think about it is value was being created, but it's a long gestation period creation of value. It took like 4 to 5 years, right? So this is one example where there's a long gestation period. Value is slowly, silently getting created, but recognition takes time. And that is why, if investors attend AGMs, they talk to management, that's how you can recognize it before the market does. So coming to the last example, I think this is also like one of the, harder topics and tougher things to think about is sort of management change and management perception change, right? So the example I want to give here is a company called Mirza International, or Red Tape. I've held it for some years now, and what you will find in Mirza, if you read through the value picker thread, is that all along the price was moving like this, going down, and the perception of the management was, management chor hai, right? Chor hai, chor hai, chor hai. And then suddenly the price starts shooting up, right? What's happening here? The thing is, even though underneath, if you read the annual reports, you would figure out that the amount of money that the promoters were taking out in the form of commissions and guarantees was reducing over time. the amount of compensation that the directors was taking out was reducing over time, the price had not shown that change. So the point is, market takes time to recognize change. It's not that change gets recognized immediately, right? So even though the company underneath was transforming, the management was changing from the older generation to the newer generation. Mr. Shuja Mirza was now starting to do more work, especially in the domestic facing company, and sort of stopping most of these guarantees and commissions and all that. It took time for the market to recognize it, right? So that is where essentially value was getting created through change in the management actions, but it took many years for the market to recognize this change, right? So my point in general is, management change is not just, someone comes over and takes over the company, mergers and acquisitions. That's one aspect or one type of management change. But another one is just a differential power structure between different directors in the company, where, one director might become more powerful than another, and that basically leads to, change in the actions of the management. A company that's doing lots of, intangibles, write-offs might stop doing that. A company that is, capitalizing R&D might stop capitalizing R&D, right? All of those are examples of management change, management action changes, real like evidence on the ground. But of course, it takes time to recognize this. And I also want to be very clear in saying that this is very muddy water generally for people. But the way I think about it is that this is also the place where the highest amount of mispricing is there, because a lot of companies are just ignored under the tag of management chor. So think of it this way: if the investor perception is of 100% chor, right? This is the choriness, and if over time the reality is that this 100% is going to 60%, so you can actually quantify this. In the case of red tape, it was the amount of commissions and guarantees that the directors were taking out. So you can quantify this, right? If it's going down over time, but the market has not recognized it, value is slowly getting created. In my opinion, I could be obviously wrong. I'm still an amateur and a newbie, but in my opinion, value is getting created, and over time, the stock price will reflect it, even if it takes time. So my experience has been that if investors are sort of all in agreement that a company is chor, that is a place of lot of minefields. That is also a place where a lot of astute investors can hunt and figure out that where the choriness is reducing over time, not increasing over time or stagnant. So yeah, that's all I had to say. Thank you and have a good Monday.